Hey, a pet peeve of mine for the longest time, I think, has been motivational videos. Largely because I'm someone who sometimes lacks discipline a lot of the time. I need like a jump start with a motivational video. But the issue is a lot of motivational videos I think have the wrong philosophy, right? The first off it's just like, oh, no one's coming to save you, you have to do it yourself, boys to men, something like that, some alpha male thing. I guess my biggest issue with that is probably my faith, because as a Christian, I guess that just goes against the whole idea of Christianity and all that, and the gospel and all that. But I think another issue, which I'm going to talk about a bit more, is the idea of just grinding alone, right? There's this idea that you have to abandon everything, go quiet, go dark, and just start grinding by yourself. I think that's a dumb idea. I think pure and simple is a bad and dumb idea, largely because, in my experience, I know I'm not the peak of success that everyone is trying to attain, but the success that I have attained, the idea has been the opposite of how I've gotten stuff done. Largely, the idea of doing stuff on your own just seems stupid because, one, as a person, trying to try and improve, to be a better person, you're trying to attain something that you lack, right? And it's not something where you can just generate those stuff by yourself. Like, you can't just generate the tools to be better just out of nowhere. You can't just be an island like, oh dang, I'm going to learn quantum physics, right? A lot of the stuff you have to do is you gaining resources, ideas, and building off the people around you. And I think once you have that solo mentality, you fail to build that network. In my experience, all the stuff I have done, let's say it's an election that I've won, like a recent example would be the University of Pittsburgh Executive Board election I won. Got the most votes. Just saying that because I think it's really cool. But also, it does show some level of success in this. How I did that was, while I was by myself, I ran as independent for the election, whereas you could run it with a team of I think up to 3 people, like as a slate. I ran as an independent largely because I didn't know anyone at the time who I could run with to be president and all that, or just even run for the executive board. I ran as an independent, yet despite that, I still suck the efforts of people around me. So for my friend Ella, she's really good at art. So how they help me make some posters. And for this election, I didn't use that many of them. Always because of time constraints and stuff like that. But I still used a couple, and those posters were popular. I also took inspiration from the previous posters she made for me. So I remember there was a poster that was really popular. It was me taking like the Pitt Cathedral of Learning and like doing a pose with that and doing like a similar. That was a really popular poster. That helped me gain traction with the election. So that was one person that helped me with the election. Then the other person was my brother, who obviously was more connected with CMU and the larger Pittsburgh area. So he would spread the message, right? So 2 people alone, not even accounting for all the other people helped me. 2 people alone helped me through that. And if I just kept to myself, never talked about what I was doing, never talked about, oh, I'm running for this position, by the time the election had happened, I would have lost, plain and simple, right? It's not going to be a matter of where some magical thing happens and everyone's like, oh, who's that dude? He looks cool. That's not how it works, right? So the idea of that lone wolf mentality is dumb, pretty and simple. And I think it's something where I think I think that's my best advice to anyone who like ever feels tempted to go down that path of being alone, because largely it's not going to get you anywhere. I can use a different domain like research. For example, I was talking about coffee chat ad recently, and the idea was that in research there's a lot of problems you can work hard on, but a lot of this, your time is best served working on the right problems, and a lot of the time you're really not gonna know what the right problems are just from the get go. That's why you have to talk to people who are usually more experienced, and that may seem hard because they might shut you down. Like say, okay, this is not the right problem, this is not the right solution, and you might really love that solution. Yeah, you might really love that solution, but I think you can love it and you can work on it like for a billion years. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Plain and simple. And by being by yourself, working alone, riding by yourself, you ultimately are going to go down that path where you're working on one solution. Maybe it's like deep inference generation for legal papers. I'm not going to explain that. And you go down that path and you spend a bunch of time on it and you find that it doesn't work. You have gone into the end result of that in a week, right? In a week, say, okay, I know this doesn't work. Let me work on this thing. I can apply more of my skills. I can get better knowledge and skills out of work on another project. You could have done that, right? Versus just wasting a bunch of time. Because while you did get skills, there was a lot of time that could have been better used. And you have to really accept that in life. There's times in my life where I know why I did get something done, why I did accomplish stuff. There was a lot of time wasted I could have better used. And it's for me to acknowledge that and say, okay, the next time I'm going to be more efficient. I'm going to streamline my process, right? I want to talk about a bit more. I'm trying to see if I can find any other examples of why I think this whole lone wolf thing doesn't really make sense. But I think it's just that general idea that I don't want to say pisses me off, but I think it just annoys me. And it prevents me from watching a lot of motivational videos because it's so. It feels like the goal. I guess this could be sent applied to a lot of stuff. But the goal of the motivational video is not to actually to succeed more, but just to feel like you're working hard. Me as a person, I love hard work, but largely, I'm not just working hard for the sake of working hard. I'm working hard because there's stuff I want to achieve, whether it's learning a new skill, whether it's building something. I think you never get attached to that feeling of working hard because it just feels like, okay, you're working hard, but where are you really accomplishing? I think there's a good quote from, I think it's Denzel Washington about walking doesn't necessarily mean progress. I'm paraphrasing here, but you can be walking in the same place for a long time, but that doesn't mean you're progressing forward. And I think that's something you really have to account for, because with a lot of these stuff, you feel like, oh, if I'm just by myself, working out by myself, reading by myself, coding by myself, doing all this stuff by myself, I can feel like I'm working hard or I'm making a couple strides here and there, but largely my progress is pretty stagnant. For the working out, my the way I do my I can't even think of incline push-ups, or maybe the way I do my dumbbell presses or something like that, or my squats, they're inefficient. I can largely improve my gains by improving the way I do them, right? But then I'm not going to know that if I don't take the expertise of someone else. I remember I was in the gym. I think it was last one. I have to go back to the gym, and then I was doing the shoot. It wasn't pull ups. It was some I think it was lap pull downs. I was doing a lap pull down, right? And I was doing it inefficiently. And this dude had no idea who it was, but he came in, gave me the advice, like, okay, wow, and it just improved my experience in general. Like it was, I don't say it was much easier, but I felt like my body was gaining much more. And 'cause I said, no, I got this, right? And I think that's just another example. But I think to end off, I will say there is merit in the idea that you can't be in every group when you're trying to get to the place you're trying. Like there's some groups you have to kind of leave. Like let's say I really want to become president of the United States of America. I think that's a goal of mine at some point. Maybe like in 10, 20 years. There's groups you can't exist in during that time where it's like, okay, this group more so is focused enjoying their 20s, right? Just for the sake of enjoying their 20s. And that's probably not a group that's going to lead me towards my goals. I think it's perfectly fine to say, okay, I love these people, but I'm not going to be in this group I'm not going to spend most of my time in that group. I'd rather spend my group with people who are in policy making, or people who are into politics, or people who are into different spaces that would lead me closer to my goals. And that's something I do, right? I have different groups I talk to, whether it's a more tech focused group, whether it's a more social group, and that's perfectly fine. But I never will subscribe to the idea of being alone doing something, right? You can do stuff alone, but never go down a path alone, I guess. Even with faith, I guess. With faith, you always find your faith. That's why it's good to go to church, find other people who share your faith and all that. Right. I think I just need to get that off my chest. I think it was something that's always bothered me. Maybe I should try and make my own motivational videos, but that's a conversation for another day when I have less on my plate. But besides that, though, I have nothing else to say. So, have a great day.